Everything is hunky-dory in spring training. Everyone's playing well. Everyone's healthy. I'm not here to spill your milk or rain on your parade, but we need to have a conversation about what is eyewash and what actually matters in spring training, and how do we do that in spring training with Guardians hitters. That starts now.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Guardians fans, baseball fans? Time for our favorite half hour of the day. Hope it is yours as well, because for the next half hour, we're talking about your Cleveland Guardians here on Locked On Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, when we are the only Guardians podcast that is covering your team every day, from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. Welcome back to our everydayers, our insiders, everyone who's listening, commenting, and checking in with us, getting ready for actual games that mean something outside of the World Baseball Classic. Because those games, they do mean something. We're going to talk about that later, or just some interesting headlines later anyway. But if you're new here, my name is Justin Lada. I am one of the two co-hosts here of Locked On Guardians, my friend and co-host Jeff Ellis, who is off today. And I have spent 19 years, believe it or not, covering the Guardians minor league system as a prospect writer and editor. On today's show, we're going to dig into who is actually taking advantage of their time in spring training and being impressive or improving, and what is just eyewash that you need to just wash away and not listen to in one ear out the other. We'll take a look at our top 100 MLB list and decide which relievers we would take over Cade Smith. Hint, it's not that many, but it didn't go that way. We'll get to that. And we do have to talk about some World Baseball Classic news, the crazy storylines, and Guardians-related outcome. And if there's time, I'll also throw in some fantasy advice as well. This episode of Locked On Guardians is brought to you by our friends over at MLB The Show. You can get a Diamond Dynasty pack using code Locked On at MLB The Show /Locked On. Available on PlayStation 5, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, March 17th. Rated E for everyone. Stay tuned later in the episode for our top 100 MLB highlights. So spring training is the time where everyone has hope. We all feel good. Guys aren't tired yet. They're not sore. Most of them aren't dealing with an injury unless you've, got Tommy John or whatever else is going on, right? And if you listen to Stephen Vogt's comments, this is not a knock on Stephen Vogt or a knock at anybody, because it's just the way it goes. But if you ask him about who is a player who, how is X player doing in camp? What is he doing? And of course, he's going to say all positive things. He's not going to go on the record to anybody during spring training, or most times a year anyway, and say, oh, yeah, well, so-and-so's got to work on this. Unless he's saying, like, someone's trying to battle back from an injury, like Hunter Gaddis or Chase DeLauter, whatever it is. How is X doing on this thing in spring training? Oh, he's great. Really impressed us. Looks great, and this is going good. And, yeah, he's going to point out all the positives. If you are dealing with, like, I don't want to say a coworker, because not coworkers, but if you are in the same industry or an adjacent industry with somebody you are an acquaintance with, you're not friends, but you've worked in the same industry, adjacent for a while. You've built some sort of relationship that's work only for the most part. And you say, hey, how are your kids? How your family doing? Right? They're going to say, yeah, they're great. Everything's going good. They're not going to say, yeah, my family sucks. My kids suck. And they're going to tell you about all the things they that are bad about them. No, they're not going to say it publicly either. They're going to say everything's great. Yeah, they're good. You're not going to get anything more out of that. That's why some of these press conferences are absolutely meaningless. And it's always, again, pay attention to what they do, not what they say. And that's the hard thing to do in spring training, because there's not a lot of doing to follow. Like, just because they option a certain guy out of camp doesn't really mean a lot, because a lot of guys that are optioned down, they're never going to make the team anyway, right? But like, I'm just not putting a whole lot of stock into words in general, but definitely not in spring training words at all. And we've talked before. I know Jeff did a show last week talking about Kings of Spring and how certain guys have good springs, and we got to calm down about what's a good spring training, what's not. And the things I wanted to look at here, to go back a little bit and preface this. So the things that generally hold up the best are contact and discipline metrics. So that's things like chase rate, whiff rate, strikeout rate. Those are going to give you signals sooner than like power, any average or OPS. Like, and even 15 to 25 plate appearances in spring training, none of that's really meaningful anyway. There's no reliability in that threshold. My cousin Russell Carlton, who writes for Baseball Prospectus, once did a study, and this got misinterpreted years ago, tried to cite that 60% of plate appearances, were a good threshold to see strikeout rate stabilize or certain rates to stabilize. And he didn't mean it in the way of like future predictions. He meant it more in a way of like historically, when you see that is when that true skill starts to be there. So there's no single point at which a stat becomes reliable or stable. Reliability tends to be like a spectrum. It's not a single point. When you get to 60, okay, that's who he's going to be. No, it's not like that. There are things like bat speed that may stabilize faster than exit velocity because it's the measure of swing and physical skill than outcome. That's not for sure. But like there are things like exit velocity and barrel rate that when you get to like 50 balls in play, that becomes more meaningful data. The other noise, everything else is noise. Average OPS, slugging, OBP, all that goes into that. Absolutely noise. Chase rate and whiff rate can be useful in small samples if it's a very extreme trend, but you can't like go and say, okay, 30 play appearances, this is a meaningful change. This is still random variation. But I did want to look at some numbers anyway and try to look at what they are doing versus what Stephen Vogt is saying, so we can kind of get a alignment here on what really makes the most sense. And the player I want to start with right now is Ralphy Velazquez. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to show his Prospect Savant chart. And it is just going to say it's a very sexy chart. Now, again, it is 14 plate appearances. So there is nothing meaningful about this data. This data cannot be taken seriously at all. But it's fun to look at, right? Look, all the rates here are good. Okay. Exit velocity, fantastic. And that tracks what we've heard. Barrel rate, hard hit rate are all up there. 83rd percentile, 66th percentile, 77th percentile in pulled air rate, which means he's pulling his fly balls. You like that. Strikeout rate's good. 81st percentile. Whiff rate, 87th percentile. Swing strike rate, 5.6%. These are all good numbers. Now, they're too small to mean anything, but at least it goes along with Stephen Vogt saying that they've really been impressed by Ralphy Velazquez, so maybe those things do work. The other one, and I want to point out too, Ralphy Velazquez, if you look at Baseball Reference, again, they have the opponent quality score where the level of their opponent, how far they've been up in the league. And it's on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is basically a hitter pitching and 10 is MLB. Ralphie has faced an equivalent of 6.1, which is about between AA and high A. So he's in AA. So not really a surprise there. So those are all things you want to take into account when you're looking at this stuff. I'm not saying stats. Again, this is signal and not noise. The next way I want to go into, though, is this. I want to go into guys who have data from last year that we can see is meaningful if there's changes. And that first guy I want to look at in terms of changes is Kahlil Watson. If I can just find the data and go through it. Okay, so Kahlil Watson this spring, 6.3 opponent quality face. So that, again, is between high A and double A, which, again, Kahlil Watson played in triple A last year. So, it's a little lower than where he's been at. Last year in triple A, Kahlil Watson had some very concerning data. His chase rate was in the 26th percentile at 32%. His whiff rate was in the 16th percentile at 35%. His zone contact rate was bad, 77% in the zone. That was 25th percentile. Now, is he doing better this spring? Yes. The barrel rate and the hard hit rate is good. Those were both good last season at AAA. The whiff rate is only 20% this spring as opposed to 35% in 2025. The zone contact rate is 93% this spring. That's 80th percentile. That's a major shift. Chase rate is in the 70th percentile, 20%. Last year, it was, again, 26%. 16 plate appearances, though. And again, I reference his opponent quality score at 6.3. So it's below the level he faced a year ago. So it stands to reason these numbers should be better than they were a year ago. And that's not to say the numbers tell the story of everything, right? but it's what we have to go on because A, we can't see all the games in person. You don't know what the pitcher is working on, and we're looking at the opponent quality, all that kind of stuff. And Watson's done good in center field. What we can see in the games is that Watson has done a good job in center field. He has made some tough plays on some tough fly balls because the Arizona sun, the wind is a very crazy environment. He's had to make adjustments. Center field defense, that has taken a step forward. He's always had a good arm too. So those are things that maybe are more stable. So the praise for Watson is good, and I guess the data backs that up if you want to look at the underlying data. But it's, again, not enough of a meaningful sample size, and the opponent quality there just doesn't back that up. So, of course, they're going to say, yeah, things are great. He's really impressed us. Maybe he has, and they're not looking at these things. But, again, these are just things we want to look at to establish that baseline. All right, we'll keep looking at some players. We'll do some data comparisons from spring 2025 and what Stephen Vogt and his staff are saying. And we're going to look at how many relievers we would take over Cade Smith. We're going to look at our MLB Top 100 list at Locked On, presented by MLB The Show. I'm going to tell you it's not a lot, and the mistakes were made. Coming up. It's March, so college basketball is nonstop. We've got big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night, early tip-offs, late night, West Coast shootouts, always action across the board. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger potential win with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Now, what that means is you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout on spreads, totals, player props, however you see the slate playing out. I told you I'm putting some down on Akron in the MAC tournament. They're actually the favorites. Miami's undefeated, but Akron is the favorite in the MAC tournament, believe it or not. And if you want to look over at the World Baseball Classic, Team USA, despite the fact they could have been eliminated on Wednesday, is still the favorite to win the tournament. I don't think anybody's looking at the Dominican Republic lineup. So that might be an easy play for you to go over there too, because I don't think anybody can beat the Dominican Republic. Go safe, go bold, ride the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, and now even more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. There's a lot of great things about March. Tax time, probably not one of them, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is definitely a lot, right? You're trying to book another appointment. It's not the most convenient with your time. You're sitting in a waiting room with your papers, and you're emailing back and forth, wondering if the person working on your taxes really gets your situation, right? This year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. Just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar that you have earned and deserve, while you get real-time notifications and can go along about your day. It is such a relief being able to walk in, talk to a real person in any situation these days, and walk out knowing your taxes are handled right, exactly how you know they need to go or what your situation looks like. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. Baseball is back, whether it's college, MLB, the World Baseball Classic, spring training. Get locked in. If you've never missed an episode of Locked On Guardians, you want to hit up the Everydayer Club, because that is where you get the chance to get the show ad-free, and you get access to the group chat on Discord where we're talking about stuff during games, even stuff during off days as well. And you can chat with us and other hosts from the Locked On Network about your favorite team, whether it's the Guardians or other teams you like across the sports. Locked On Guardians at supercast.com to get there, or tap the link in the show notes. All right, let's keep talking about some hitters and comparisons from spring training and last year. You know, Travis Bazzana, I don't want to go too deep here. This is 9 plate appearances, but the one thing I did love early on, and I'm going to be biased here and talk about this, is the hard hit rate. All the exit velocities way better this spring. And again, 9 plate appearances versus 120, you know it's more stable. And Bazzana, I know for sure, was not facing the best quality of competition in spring training before he left for the World Baseball Classic. Yeah, it was 6.3. So it was between AA and high A. And he was in AAA last year, and he definitely has graduated along that level. But all the hard hit rates, 86 percentile, barrel rate was 96 percentile. Whiff rate was good, 90th percentile. Chase rate, 96 percentile. Zone contact, 91%. So like all those indicators were good. All those indicators were up over AAA in 2025. Let's look at somebody who's not. We have one here we can really look at from spring training that might be a little more meaningful, and one we've heard a lot about. It was Gabriel Arias. So Stephen Vogt has talked about how Gabriel Arias' approach has been better this spring. So he's at 20 plate appearances as well. And last year, not really a shock, and this has been his career. Chase rate for Gabriel Arias last year was in the 6th percentile. That's awful. 38%. Can't do a whole lot with that when you chase. And his whiff rate was in the 1st percentile, 40%. So, Jeff talked a few weeks ago about what buckets of players work, right? If you strike out a lot, if you whiff a lot, that's okay, as long as you hit the ball hard. Same with chase rate. You've got to be able to hit the ball hard. Gabriel Arias hits the ball hard, but he also whiffs and chases. So he's not chasing quality pitching. That's why they signed a guy like Rhys Hoskins, because typically Rhys Hoskins doesn't chase, but he does whiff in the zone. But when he makes contact, he hits it hard. That profile can stand up if you hit the ball hard. Now, Gabriel Arias this spring, 7.8 opponent quality score. That is between AA and AAA. So he's not quite MLB level, but it's higher than the other guys we talked about. Arias this spring does have a chase rate at 18%. And again, you're comparing that to 38% last year. That's a 20-point drop. That's a huge drop. Zone contact rate, still not great, 63%. That wasn't good for him a year ago either. The whiff rate this spring is 44%. That's 14th percentile. That's still higher than it was a year ago. So, yeah, maybe he's chasing less. He's still swinging and missing a lot. But, again, if he manages to keep the ball in the zone, hits the ball hard enough, it's a profile that could work out. Like, that could work for him. But he's walking a little more this spring. Again, 20 plate appearances. But we'll see if those things come to fruition. So he's chasing a little bit less. That's a good thing. I don't think it's necessarily going to give him a whole lot of room, or it's gonna mean a whole lot when it comes to the regular season, but we'll see. All right, let's look at Chase DeLauter now, because Chase DeLauter, I want to see how these things are holding up too, because DeLauter has obviously missed some time and has gotten effusive praise in spring training. Everything on his data right now looks fantastic. Actually, it all looks the same compared to what it was in 2025. Things are very consistent across the board. He's got a very high percentile in whiff rate across the board, barrel rate, exit velocity measures. He is at a 7.1 opponent quality score this spring. So that's a guy whose data has been consistent. Again, only 17 plate appearances because of injuries. So that's one of them. I was going to look at Valera. I don't know if maybe we can look at Valera and see, because he's an interesting one as well. I think I saw some inconsistencies in his data from last year to this year. And that's a guy too who's gotten a lot of praise. And you know what? He's gotten more plate appearances than a lot of people this spring, because he's actually been on the field, right? That's a good thing for him. So Valera this spring, pull air ball, pulling his fly ball, 7.3%. That's 87th percentile. If you look at last year, that's not the same as what he was doing a year ago. His chase rate last year was 24% in AAA. This year in the spring training, it's 26%, so it's up a little bit. Zone contact is 79% this spring. His zone contact last year was 82, so those are pretty consistent across the board. He's at 27 plate appearances. The exit velocity data is good. He hit the ball particularly hard in the majors last year. Had some success barreling with barrels a little bit, but didn't have great exit velo data. Chase rate was not good. Strikeout rate was not good. So he's doing a little better this spring with some things, and he is at a 7.7 in opponent quality score. So he's bordering on AA and AAA. Let's catch one more in this comparison. So let's look at Kyle Manzardo, because we've heard a lot about Manzardo this spring. So this will be an easy one to compare, because he's got major league data we can actually go off of that's got time and consistency, and he's one that has to take a big step this year. And they asked him at the weight room and do some different things, and he's come to camp. Remember the whole best shape of his life thing. He's bulked up. So Manzardo this spring, a lot of the same from a year ago. So he barreled the ball pretty well last year. 11.8% barrel rate. That means 11.8% of his batted balls last year were barreled, which is a good combination of exit velocity and the right launch angle. Exit velocity was just so-so. Chase rate was middle of the pack, and his whiff rate was below average. Whiff rate this spring, actually 30%. Last year it was 27, so that's pretty consistent. Barrel rate 10.5%, so he's barreling the ball the same this spring as he did pretty much last year. The chase rate is 35%. Last year it was 27, so he's chasing a little more this spring in 31 plate appearances, so that's up a little bit. And again, I want to say, like, these samples are not big enough for you to sit there and say there's something big going on here. Nolan Jones, just as you want to get one more in here, Nolan Jones, not good. It's not good. He is hitting the crap out of the ball. Exit velocities are great. Barrel's great. Hard hits rate. You know what? He did that a year ago in the majors too. His chase rate was 26%. This spring, his chase rate is 31%. He's chasing a lot more this spring. He's actually walking less because he's chasing more. And the whiff rate is 45%. It was 27%. So it's not going good for Nolan Jones this spring. So let me know what you think of the data, how you feel about that versus what Stephen Vogt is saying about the players. So we can kind of get a comparison of, like, okay, what's this guy really doing versus what is Stephen Vogt saying? Because he said good things about Watson and Halpin and Valera and all those other guys, Hanau and Jones and Arias. The Arias one proved to be a little bit interesting, I thought. So let me know what you think about those and, how much you're buying into all that. All right, we got to talk about which relievers we would take over Cade Smith next. It shouldn't be a lot. And we also got to talk about some funny World Baseball Classic headlines coming up. We are so proud to be partnering with MLB The Show 26 to bring you this week's MLB Top 100 highlight, the latest from the beloved video game franchise. Each week we are highlighting the stars of our MLB's top 100 players. Let's use the elite names you get to control, build around, and go head-to-head with an MLB The Show. This week, let's take a look at number 70 on our list. That is Steven Kwan of the Guardians. And obviously, this is an interesting one, right? You could build the franchise around him and Jose. You can extend a contract to him, see if you can keep him, what makes sense, what's fair, or you can trade him for the Guardians, see what makes sense, and you could be the GM. Maybe you can make a better decision, the Guardians, on a fair contract or what a fair trade return could be. That's the beauty of MLB The Show. The World Baseball Classic going on. You can take on WBC teams from all over the world with your Diamond Dynasty team. This week's MLB Top 100 highlight presented by MLB The Show 26. You can play, manage, build your favorite players and teams. Head over to MLB.theshow/locked-on. Use code LOCKEDON to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Pre-order now. Available March 17th. Available on PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. Plenty of ways for you to keep up with the show and be informed of what's coming next on the show, what's been released. That is hitting the bell on YouTube so you get notifications when the episodes go live, as well as when we do reaction videos to any news, games, some bonus content, prospects. And, Jeff had videos up about Kwan and Jose in terms of their place in the top 100 list. So you can do all that at YouTube and auto download. We are free and everywhere on all of your favorite audio platforms. So you can take us with you and talk baseball with us in your car, on walking your dog, at the gym, wherever it is. I need to go to the gym more myself. So maybe that's a good start if one of you is listening to a podcast at the gym. Let's look at our MLB top 100 list. And we've talked about how Jose came in 8th, right? We talked about how Steven Kwan came in 70th. Jeff and I both had Cade Smith ranked ahead of Steven Kwan. Cade Smith did not make the list. He finished at 111. The relievers ahead of Cade Smith on the top 100 list are Mason Miller at 57. And that's not unfair because Mason Miller is really good. He strikes a lot of guys out. His ERA is exceptionally low. His FIP is close. He has pitched significantly less games and less innings than Cade Smith, but I don't have an issue with that one. Jhoan Duran is number 98. He is the only other reliever that made the list, the top 100 at 98. Over the last 2 years, Cade Smith has thrown 20 more games, about 25 more innings, He's got an ERA that's 0.30 lower. His FIP is almost a run lower. His Fangraphs WAR is a full 2.1 wins higher. It's because of the saves. That's all it is. Cade Smith has 17 saves. He wasn't a closer until late last year when Emmanuel Clase got put on disciplinary paid leave for the gambling investigation. Jhoan Duran has 55 saves over the last 2 years. Mason Miller has 50. It's simply the saves. And that is such a short-sighted way to rank players, especially when it comes to relievers. And I understand only ranking 2 relievers. I really do. I have no issue with Mason Miller making the list. I feel like I'd probably put Mason Miller ahead of Cade Smith because Mason Miller's got filthy, filthy stuff. Even though Cade Smith has a whole Fangraphs win above him. It's 5.4 over the last 2 years to Mason Miller's 4.4. ERA is lower. The FIP is lower. Again, more innings, more games, 45 more games to be exact. Cade Smith has been more durable. He's allowed less runs. He's walked less. Mason Miller's stuff is filthy, and he's saved 50 games. I get that. I have no problem there. But the save bias here is ridiculous. Saves are it's a stat that's like so dumb to rank by because you can go in, give up 2 runs, and get a save. It's not. It may not be the highest leverage point of the game. Let's actually look at leverage points over the last 2 years. We can do that on Fangraphs. We can look at high leverage. Win probability added for your team. And that is simply about how much you're contributing to your team's win. That's coming in as a reliever at the highest leverage points in the game and shutting it down. Emmanuel Clase, the last 2 years, 7.04 win probability added, the highest reliever in baseball. Mason Miller was second. Cade Smith is 9th at 5. Jhoan Duran doesn't even appear on until 28. 28th at win probability added. Now, how about what we qualify as shutdowns? Now, this is a shutdown inning where you thwart a rally. This is tracked by Fangraphs as well. Cade Smith is 4th. It's 73 over the last 2 years. 4th in shutdown innings at 73. Jhoan Duran, 68. Meltdowns. Cade Smith, this is where you come into a high leverage situation and you allow runs and it doesn't go well. Cade Smith has 18 of those over the last 2 years. Jhoan Duran, 21. So he's got quite a bit of those. Mason Miller's only got 11. So there you go. And then I also like to see what the game leverage index is when a pitcher comes in versus when he leaves. So when Cade Smith comes into a game, the leverage actually doesn't appear in the top 30. I don't believe Jhoan Duran does. Jhoan Duran does come in at 1.73 with leverage. So he comes in with a high leverage point, and that's usually because he's closing. And then exiting the game with a leverage point, again, that's going to go mostly to closers as well. So Cade Smith doesn't qualify there. But the highest leverage point in the game isn't always the save. The most important part of the game sometimes is the 7th or the 8th or the 6th. That's why Cade Smith and Andrew Miller had those roles in the past. But rate stats across the board, I mean, again, ERA, I don't really care for reliever FIP, as I said, but he's better than Jhoan Duran. He has struck out, strikeout rates. Look at strikeout rate just by itself. And strikeouts don't tell the whole story if you're a good reliever or not. But Jhoan Duran is not even in the top 30. It's not even in the top 30 for strikeout rate. Cade Smith is 7th. Walk rate, lowest walk rates among relievers. Cade Smith, 20. Again, Jhoan Duran, not even in the top 30, which is why his FIP is higher. Mason Miller deserved to be on there. Cade Smith deserved to be on there if Jhoan Duran is. Big miss by us at the network. And here's the back of the list, too. This is where I was looking. I was like, would you take Cade Smith over Drake Baldwin? Would you take him over Nick Lodolo? Would you take him over Eugenio Suarez? How about Alejandro Kirk? How about Kyle Stowers? That was kind of the back half of the list there. I was like, I think I'd take Cade Smith over all those guys. Those are guys that were laid on the list. I probably wouldn't take him over Brent Rooker or Seiya Suzuki or Austin Riley, but I'd take him over Drake Baldwin. I'd take him over Duran. I'd take him over the guys that finished close off the list there, like that were above him. Let me know what you think. Where are you? How many relievers or how many players on our top 100 list would you rather have Cade Smith over? Let's quickly get out of here on this note, talking about the World Baseball Classic. How funny was that Mark DeRosa thing? I don't think Mark DeRosa miscalculated. I don't think he misspoke when he said, "Oh, we've already advanced, but this game still means a lot to us. We've already got our ticket punched." I don't think he was wrong. I don't think he was saying he got it wrong. I think he was assuming that Team USA was going to roll out of bed and beat Italy. And Italy right now is thrashing Team Mexico at the end as I'm recording this. So Italy is the real deal. And they took him too lightly. I think that's what it was. I think DeRosa just assumed. And that's why the lineup is the way it is, right? The lineup had a bunch of guys getting the day off, and he was going to warm up Clayton Kershaw late in the game to get a platitude or whatever you want to call it, a little celebration performance. And then someone told him, hey, run differential matters in this tournament. So if Kershaw goes out there and gets absolutely destroyed, we could find ourselves out. Now, Italy is crushing Mexico, so Italy saved Team USA's salami, but I don't think Mark DeRosa knew what was going on. I think he just assumed they were going to beat Italy, and that was going to be that. They had their ticket punch. I don't know. Let me know what you think was going through his head. Team Canada is going on. They're moving out of pool play for the first time in World Baseball Classic history. They did it the hard way. They lost to Panama, and they had to beat Cuba and Puerto Rico. Not an easy task to do that. I'm sorry. They had to beat they had to beat Puerto Rico and Panama. So they did it the hard way at the end here. They won their pool. They're moving on as the winners of the pool. Italy's moving on. USA is moving on. Japan's moving on. Venezuela and Dominican Republic are currently duking it out to see who gets to face Japan and who gets to not face Japan next round. So that means Bo Naylor and Tugboat will be pitching for Team Canada in the next games in the quarterfinal. We're playing for Team Canada, so I don't think that's been determined who they're playing yet. Let's take a look and see. Maybe that is not set up yet. So we'll see who they end up playing. And then for Italy, because they're moving on, that keeps Matt Festa and Dylan DeLucia with Team Italy. So those guys will be out of camp for at least another 4 days. Yeah. The quarterfinal is March 13th. So that's 2 days. So at least 2 more days. I don't know. I don't think Team Italy is going to wind up beating Venezuela, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. That's it for this episode. I said I was going to get some fantasy rankings for Guardians players. If you are playing fantasy baseball, I can get to that next week. Maybe I'll do it as an extra bonus video at some point. But I'll have that. And then, I'll send out the invites to the Fantasy Baseball League on Thursday or Friday. So you can get that. That'll go to our insiders and our everydayers. So those leagues will be first come, first serve for as many as we can get. I've got your emails if you've already been in the league or you gave them to me through our texting. So I'll have those as well. All right. Let me know what you think of the data comparisons in spring training versus Stephen Vogt's effusive praise of everybody, because everything is sunny and happy and rainbows and marshmallows. Let me know where you feel about Cade Smith in the rankings, and let me know how you're enjoying the World Baseball Classic and some of these headlines. How about the Radio Rosarena and Cal Raleigh beef headline? That was interesting too. So we've got some soap opera stuff going on in the World Baseball Classic, as well as good games. I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. Watch a lot of baseball this weekend, and we'll get back to you. I know Jeff will be back with a mock draft on Friday as well. So yeah, that to look forward to. Make sure you tune in there, and make sure you rate, review, download daily, all that good stuff. It really helps us out. Appreciate all of you, and go Guardians, go.